It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under the full forward.
Mackey's taken a ripper! He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
The big guy.
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest!
All thanks to Mequicare, proud partner of the VAFA.
Makes a name for himself with these long bombs from outside the arc. It's a long bomb from outside the arc!
This is for the love of the game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
Hey everybody, welcome to For the Love of the Game. Thanks to Mequicare, helping 16,500 Victorians each and every weekend. We are looking back at round 11. We are rolling along towards the double bye and Big V weekend that's coming up in a week or so's time. Jason Bennett alongside Paddy Grindlay and Matthew Donald. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you, Jace. Yes,
where were you on the
of
weekend?
Footy. I was lucky enough to see Old Scotch just give its season a little bit of a red-hot kick up the backside. It was outstanding to watch the Sam Grant Clinic out at Scotch College. Beautiful part of the world. Beautiful day for football. Beautiful ground for football. We were out in the balcony there as Old Haileybury got started reasonably well, but Old Scotch really got into its work. Can't wait to break it all down. Matthew Donald, where were you?
Paddy, Jace, I was at the picturesque University Oval, I think, in the Premier Division. It's my favourite venue to
It is a
to
beautiful
call
view, isn't
football
it?
at. It's a terrific atmosphere and a really good match. Old Zavs against the hosts Uni Blacks, and it was really tight for 2.5 quarters, but in the end, the Zavs proved why they're one of the teams to beat in 2025.
All that and more coming up as we look back at round 11 of Premier Men's Football, thanks to William Buck. And ladder leaders Old Brighton saw off a stiff challenge to their 14-game winning streak at Brighton Beach Oval. It's not often that teams get even anywhere near them at Brighton Beach Oval, but in the end they ultimately squeezed past a plucky University Blues. The Blues led by a kick at the first break before the Tunners rammed on 5 goals in 10 minutes early in the second term. They got up to 19 points in front at the major break, the Tunners. But credit to the Blues, they dug in, had the better of the third term, kicked 2 goals, got within 10 points, then kicked the opening 2 goals of the final term. They actually hit the front for the first time since early in the second stanza. And I know we were all at other venues watching this game in just amazement, thinking, don't tell me. It couldn't possibly. And they got back within a kick. Scores got level after they were goal for 17 minutes. Entering time on, scores level in the final term. And we all, I'm sure, had the same thought. The Blues couldn't have 3 consecutive draws, could they?
Oh, well, this dominated the conversation at University Oval in our game for the last 5 minutes. Could it happen? 3 draws in a row? Surely not. But we were on for a large portion of that final term. And probably a little bit disappointed in the end from a neutral point of view that we didn't get the hat-trick. That would have been quite an achievement. We would have been delving through the history books to try and find the last time that happened.
Felix Flockhart, Jamie Hope ultimately got them over the line, kicked a couple late, and they won it by 12 points in the end. For Marcel Bruin and Old Brighton, what did he have to say about the performance, Paddy?
Yeah, plenty of fight and heart. Down to 2 on the bench, unfortunately. Max Bennier, I see that you've written, Jason Bennett, an injury to his knee, which would be really sad because he's such a talent, such a wonderful leaper. And, of course, there was AFL interest in him last year as part of the mid-season draft, but they were able to hold on. It was Max Lowen's 100th game. Hamish Dick outstanding, as you mentioned, with the 5 goals. Ben Pryor also good up forward in the one-on-ones especially. He's had a very solid year after being in and out a little bit in 2024.
Gee, it's been a gruelling year for Matt Smith, the coach of the Blues, hasn't it? He's been put through the ringer a few times. What did he make of this?
He has. Well, he was really pleased with the way that the boys fought it out throughout the most of the match, but he lamented a 10-minute period in the second term when the Tunners piled on 5 goals in rapid time, and they kicked 6 in that second term, and that's what broke the game over. But he also praised the Blues' ability to be able to wrestle back the control even after that and close the gap and get themselves in front at one point in the last term as well, and miss a couple of opportunities that could have pushed out a big lead. So it was just a matter of it was a case of missed opportunities.
Another almost one.
Yeah, Jason, mate, I'm looking through their last 6 weeks of footy, the Blues, and it's just heartbreak after heartbreak. They probably could have won the Old Haileybury game. They were ahead for a long portion. They fell on that one. They lose to the Zavs by under a kick.
Well, didn't they lead at 3/4 time for the last 4 weeks, and then on the weekend they didn't lead at 3/4 time, but they led in the last quarter.
Scotch, they were ahead, and then they get the James Tarrant game in the final term where he kicks 5. They draw with St Bernards. They draw with Collegians. They're ahead at the Brighton Beach Oval. They fall short again.
If they are to get relegated at the end of the year, and there's still a lot of footy still to be played, they would have to be the best team ever to be relegated. When you think about all those tight losses, and as I say, still 7 games to go, and who knows, they could be miles away from the end of the year. But, gee, right now, they are much, much better than their win-loss record suggests.
And I haven't even mentioned the game that they lost via a kick after the siren, Jace. So you're just hoping for some luck to break the way of the University Blues. It's not been coming so far, at least, though, from this 6-week stretch, they've been able to scrape 4 points of footy, not the conventional way, but at least they've got something for their efforts.
Paddy, you mentioned you were at Scotch College on a beautiful day. You saw Old Scotch continue their resurgence with an impressive win over Old Haileybury. The Cardinals were on from the outset.
Oh, yeah.
They were really aggressive in defence. They had an efficient attack. They had less disposals and inside 50s early, but they kicked the first 3 goals of the game. Looked very, very efficient and effective in the front half. Scoring opened up from midway through the second. 7 goals in 14 minutes between the two teams. This game suddenly turned into a shootout, which must have been fun to watch.
It was dour at the start, and we weren't quite sure which team really wanted to win the game of footy. Haileybury actually hit the front early in the second quarter, and that sparked something in the Cards, and it was just remarkable. Tyler Sellers, I think, ticked 2 goals in the space of 90 seconds in his first game in Cardinal red, blue and gold in, I think, over maybe 2 years, Jason.
And there was no James Tarrant, but then you have Tyler Sellers to drop in. That's a more than handy replacement.
Well, we mentioned this on air. It's the Scotch big boys. It's been Ryan Valentine, who we've barely seen, so James Tarrant's taken this big role. When he's been away, it's been Will Clark, who's picked up, and now Tyler Sellers up there as well. Fraser Morrisby's playing a role. But the biggest of them all is Sam Grant. And this was a guy, he was coming into this contest playing against Jack Bell, 2 Big V nominated ruckmen. We posed the question pre-game at whether Daniel Harford is watching this game, making his final call over who's going to take the tap in a couple of weeks' time at Elsternwick Park against the Perth Footy League. Sam Grant put on an absolute clinic in the ruck, but not just in the ruck. He was also behind the footy, taking marks like no one's business. He was imperious around the ground, 29 disposals, 24 contested possessions, 8 marks, 10 clearances, 7 rebound 50s, and a goal. I think he had something like 249 Premier Data ranking points.
Game.
It was an absolute clinic against a really highly respected opponent. So Old Scotch, with that burst in the second term, took control of the game and then went again through the third and fourth. And by the end of the game, it was pretty much 10-15 minutes of junk time for Mark Nat and his team.
Yeah, they ended up winning it by 39 points in the end. Ollie Houghton superb for the Bloods. He had 40 touches, 28 contested, 8 tackles, 12 clearances, 5 inside 50s. I heard your conversation with Mark Nat after the game. He seemed quite pleased.
He was stoked, I think, especially Sam Grant, but also Ryan Walsh, who had the job on, who was going into that point. Andreas Stefanakis led the VAFA for goal kickers. I'm not actually 100% sure.
James Stewart, I think, is taking the lead now.
Yes, James Stewart's ahead by
5.
2, 33 plays 31. So Stefanakis he kicked 2, but he was kept pretty much out of the game for the majority of that one, in fact, kicking the last goal of the game. So he had 1 until the final moments. Just stoked with the 4-quarter performance was Mark Nat. Knew Old Haileybury would play a very strong brand of football and be excellent around the contest, but they were able to stand up to it. They're building some momentum through this part of the season. Very much looking forward to a massive clash with Collegians at the Harry Trott this weekend.
Matty, we know Daniel Ward wears his heart on his sleeve. What did he have to say?
Yeah, he was really disappointed with the performance throughout the entirety of the match. He said it's probably the first time all season that the effort and application can come into question. And this is a side that's probably been one of the informed teams in the competition up until last week. So, yeah, he was very disappointed with the effort and the use of the footy as well.
Sets the table for a fascinating game, that, doesn't it, between the
yes.
Blacks and Old Haileybury, who have both been on a run and have both suddenly clipped a hurdle on the way through.
Yeah, no, it will be a really fascinating contest because that's a big 4 points up for grabs for both sides.
And I felt for our boundary rider, Arman Harrison McElwain, who phoned into the box during the first quarter after things got pretty grim for Old Haileybury around the footy and said, geez, I'm not looking forward to trying to push a microphone in front of Daniel Ward's face.
All part of the learning process, isn't it? It's all part of the journey.
He's a great man, Wardy. It was really lovely actually to catch up with both coaches at Scotch College. A wonderful day for footy.
Speaking of Blacks, they came up against Old Zaverians at Melbourne University Oval. Paddy Donald mentioned that he was there, and Old Zabs have now won 5 on the trot after they snapped the Blacks' 5-game winning streak at Melbourne Uni. It was Blacks that bounced out of the blocks. They kicked the opening 2 goals, but then Xavier kicked the next 5 to lead by 15 points at the half. Blacks, Matty, have been known for their resilience and grit, and it was on display once again in the third term. They kicked 2 of the first 3 goals, got within 7 points, but then Zabs, as they've done repeatedly throughout 2025, put the foot down, kicked 3 goals in 3 minutes, got it back out to 4 goals, and from there were never really headed, were they?
No, they weren't. It was a really good performance from the Zabs, and this was a really good, important match for both sides. I think whoever came away with this one, we were going to look at as a genuine threat in this year's premiership race. The Old Zabs were probably the better side, even in that first half. It kind of felt like the Blacks were just sort of hanging in there for a bit. And as you say, they did well enough to get it back to within a kick or 2 at the midway point in the third term. So they were really hanging in there for a long period of time. But it was the combination of Stavro and Fisher in the third term that really got the ball rolling in the middle for the Zavs, and they kicked clear at three-quarter time and just continued to boost the percentage in that final term. So they walk away with a really, really important 4 points on the road against quality opposition.
What a midfield punch that is. The Sam Fisher, Marcus Stavro 1-2. This week they had between them 68 disposals, 24 clearances, 11 tackles and 3 goals. They are so difficult to stop. And we speak about this every week that you sit on one and one of the other guys gets off the chain. Obviously, Campbell Lane's away, suffering from the Tullamarine flu at the moment. I'm sure he's doing it really tough over in the Mediterranean somewhere. Our thoughts are with Campbell. Thoughts and prayers with you, Campbell. I hope you're going okay.
He won't be listening.
Well, I'd like to be optimistic and think that he is. Someone might spread the word. And the midfield depth is just remarkable. And Dan Donati, another really important 4 points for the Zabs.
He's advertised the replay to us as Dan Donati, saying it was one of those games that was great to watch from the very start, a very skillful game of footy, both teams with their turns, with momentum. And then the Zavs able to break clear, as you mentioned, Matty, later in the day and go on with the victory. Gave a bit of a feather in the cap for Dale Barra and his defensive game plan. The University Blacks have been strong behind the footy all year. Dan Donati says they were outstanding, pretty even in the middle, but up forward. That's where the Zavs perhaps got their reward for effort later in the game, which is how they won this game of footy, Matty Donald, which sees them continue to push towards the top of the ladder.
Dale Bauer, what did you have to say?
Yeah, well, as we mentioned, the Blacks did a really good job to hang in there for quite a while, even though they were probably second best for most of the day. And he acknowledged that great effort that they brought, at least in the first 2.5 quarters. But then it just fell away a bit in the end, not quite having the energy required to last the 4 quarters. And gave praise as well to Zavs, who he concedes are one of the best teams going around. And their power in the midfield and up forward eventually just carried too much weight in the end.
So Blacks' stumble at Melbourne Uni opened the door for St Kevin's to return to the top 4, courtesy of a thumping win over an undermanned St Bernard's at St Kevin's College. Scob set the tone early. They had 12 shots to 3 in the opening term. They led by 4 goals at the first break. But just as it appeared to be a comfortable afternoon for them, the Snow Dogs found a bit of bite. They kicked 3 goals in a row. They got the halftime deficit back to 16 points. But then St Kevin's kicked again in the third term. They dominated possession and territory, but were wasteful around goal. They kicked 2-6 to 2 behind. So they kept the Dogs in it with just an outside chance. It was 32 points at the last break. But then the final term, a replica of the third. Scob completely dominant. They had 19 inside 50s to 1 in the last quarter, Scob, but they kicked 5-6 to no score. So in the second half, they had 36 inside 50s to 6. So it was completely one-way traffic. But in the end, it was a comprehensive 68-point win. This could have been a triple-figure game, but Scob kicked 7-12 to 2 behinds after half-time, so 19 shots to 2. So they left a bit of precious percentage on the table, but as I mentioned, enough to launch back into the top 4. The Snow Dogs, well, they're now winless since round 6. They're wounded, as we know. They're dealing with some injury issues. They're now a game and a half behind the top 4. But you then turn and look over your shoulder. They're now only a game and a half ahead of the drop zone as well. So they're slipping into that little limbo space in the middle of the ladder where you're still hopeful of making the finals, but you've got to be really careful because the teams behind are starting to close the gap as well. So Billy Coates, superb. He had 19 disposals, 46 hit-outs, 10 clearances, and then just such depth. We speak about Zabs' depth in the midfield. Well, Jack Marnie had 30. Cam Hodges, 29. Liam Gunson, 26. Luke Winter, 25. Tom Ferguson, 24. They are just stacked in the midfield. Matthew Watson battled hard for the Snow Dogs. He had 23 disposals, 9 marks. 5 rebound 50s for Matt Watson. He actually went back and spent some time in the back half, given the amount of dominance, the amount of football was at the other end of the ground. There was no point having him just sitting there quietly up forward with nothing to do. Anthony Lynch, well, Foundation Day, we know how important Scob put on that day, Paddy, so a big win for them would be very well received. Yeah,
they get up for those games at the college, do St Kevin's. They also celebrated some premiership reunions, so a pretty big day for those down who usually reside at the TH King, but this time over at the college. Very pleased with the game, as you'd expect, in particular the second half and the team defence, which we know is an Anthony Lynch staple. And also that sort of really positive ball movement that we have been seeing through this year. We know that they've been scoring more than they previously have across the last few seasons this year, the Scobbers. So saw a fair feature of that. It's just the finishing that probably lacked for St Kevin's. Massive game coming up this weekend against Old Brighton over at the TH King. Not as much positivity, though, Matty Donald, for Steve Alessio of St Bernard's.
No, he was pleased with the competitiveness that they showed in the first half, and St Kevin's wayward goal kicking meant that they were only a couple of goals down at the main break, but reiterated that second halves are a massive concern. You mentioned the inside 50 count, Jace, after halftime. 19 scores to 2. in the second half for St Kevin. So that just further emphasises the dominance there. But he is looking forward to seeing how they can work their way out of this form slump in the coming weeks, and certainly heading a few players back from injury will definitely help.
The final Premier Men's game of the weekend saw Collegians salute for the first time since round 5 after they took care of D. La Salle at Waverley Oval. We all sat around here last week and thought this is probably D-Lar's best opportunity to get that breakthrough win they've been chasing, but it was the Lions who grabbed the early initiative. They kicked the only 3 goals of the opening term. They led by 21 points at quarter time. D-Lar found the midway through the second term, but it was their only major of the quarter. Collegians booted another 4, out to 38 points at half-time. Another 3 unanswered in the third term, and Collegians were well on top. D-Lar held to just a single goal by three-quarter time. They kicked a couple of consolation goals in the final term, but a very disappointing afternoon all around for the D-Lar faithful. Held to 3-7. It was their lowest score since round 17 of 2019. But from a Lions perspective, a 70-point win, huge win for them, sees them leapfrog the Blues out of the relegation zone, at least for the moment. And again, it was a good combined effort. Jim Bazzani, 29 touches. Max Pinchback had 27. Luke Nelson had 26. Dylan Thomas kicked 4. Alex Lukic kicked 3. Will Pockney kicked 3. So a very pleasing performance for Collegians who have been doing it tough in recent times, Paddy. A win not only helping the scoreboard and the percentage, but also just the confidence when you see how the load was spread. And a lot of guys would have walked away from that game feeling much better about themselves.
And you look at the scoreline, Thomas 4 goals, Lukic and Pockney 3, and it's exciting, I think, for Geordie McKenzie and Collegians. That's when he mentioned the offensive game that got going, which was their biggest area of improvement on the day, able to put speed on the ball and give the forwards a chance up front. Jasper Davey, arguably his best game for the footy club, which is saying something considering he won the best and fairest last year. Jim Bazzani and Campbell Walker through the middle, terrific. Dylan Thomas is a player I really like. He usually plays
special,
on the wing.
isn't he? He's got something about him.
Yeah, he's a goal-kicking wingman and he helps out the other way as well. So those guys who can run up and down all day but also hit the scoreboard, he's a kind of like that baby Isaac Smith type, Dylan Thomas. So a really exciting player. You mentioned the University Blues. If they go down, would be one of the best ever teams to be relegated from Premier A. If Collegians
they're in
end
the
up
same
in
boat.
that position, same boat.
And the way it's looking at the moment is that one of them might, unless St Bernard's can, if they completely fall in a heap and one of them can chase the snow, or they can both chase the Snow Dogs down.
The relegation race was spicy last year, Matthew Donald. It might be spicier this season.
Nick Hyland's perspective, mate, they must have built themselves up for this game. That must be a massive gut punch.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, they'd been playing really well up in the last few weeks and they'd been building nicely, but Nick Hyland considered that what happened at the weekend was a step back. They were just totally outplayed by Collegians in every facet of the game, couldn't get anything going. And it's a real step back in terms of the development of the team throughout 2025. Another opportunity for them against the second bottom team from the ladder again, against Uni Blues this week. They'll be hoping to G themselves up for that one because this is another really important game for them if they want to stave off relegation.
Speaking of the ladder, old Brighton hanging on to that one-game lead at the top of the table there, 10-1 with a percentage of 174.3. They're a game clear of Old Zabs in second at 36 points, and Old Zabs now 2 games clear of Old Haileybury on 28. So the top 2 teams have cleared out at the moment. So a little bit, and we'll talk about some of the other sections shortly, but the gap where it gets really interesting is from 3rd down to 6th. You got Old Haileybury on 28 points. You got St Kevin's, Old Scotch, and Uni Blacks all on 24. So they are separated by 1 game, 3rd to 6th. A game and a half back to St Bernard's, a game back to Collegians, another half game back to the Blues, and then D. La Salle yet to win a game. So right now, you'd think the race for the top 4 is between 6 teams, and the relegation race has been between 3, but you'd almost say 3.5. Just St Bernard's are a game and a half clear of Uni Blues, but as we know, that can be closed down pretty quickly.
Yeah, 2 years ago, Old Haileybury went down with 6 wins. St Bernard's currently on 4.5.
Yeah.
So that's the equation. You'd think if you can get to 7.
If they can get another couple of wins under their belt, they should be okay.
Yeah.
But, it's just... And again, we talk about where teams are at the moment in terms of their best players on the field and guys being sore and really hanging out for that double bye. Well, you've both seen St Bernard's in recent weeks, and they are a bit of walking wounded, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the game that we did a couple of weeks ago where they had no one on the bench and they might have had 2 or 3 injured players having to just hold the fort down on field in the last quarter when they got overran. So they're I mean, they're in a real bit of trouble in terms of getting fit players out on the field at the moment, and now you need your fit players running. Their best ability is availability, as they say.
And they've got Old Zabs at Toorak Park. They've got De La Salle out at the St Bernards. Then they've got Old Brighton down at Brighton.
Yeah.
So they've got some really tough games in the road ahead. Then they've got Collegians at St Bernards as well, which will be a massive, massive game. So even if you think if they could take care of De La and Collegians at home, their next 2 home games, that would get them to 6.5 wins. And you would think that would be enough. But I tell you what, if they drop 1 or 2 of those, their last 3 games will be against Old Scotch at Camberwell, Old Haileybury at St Bernards, and St Kevin's at St Bernards in the final round.
And
you wouldn't want to leave it until the last couple of weeks, would you?
No, definitely not. They still haven't won a game at home this year either, have they?
They have not.
1 draw.
So they're going to have to, you'd think, jag a couple of wins at home in the run between maybe D-La and Collegians coming up are the 2 that they could get and get themselves out of trouble. That wraps up Premier Men's. After the break, we will talk Prem B on For the Love of the Game.
Would you like to get more closely involved with footy and enjoy the unique camaraderie and bonds that exist in and around footy clubs? VAFA clubs are always looking for volunteers to assist with the weekly running of the club, both on and off the field. Log on to vafa.com.au and check out our club directory to find a club near you.
Tickets are now on sale for the VAFA's 2025 Big V Gala Dinner presented by City Power. It's a landmark event, the largest function that VAFA has ever staged, and it's celebrating 100 years of Big V representative football. This historic evening will serve as the official opening to the Rep Football Weekend, offering a unique opportunity to honour the legacy of the Big V and its enduring significance within the VAFA community. The Big V Gala Dinner will bring together past players, coaches, club representatives and supporters to reflect on a century of tradition, achievement and pride. The evening promises to be one of the most significant in the VAFA's history. You don't want to miss it. It's at Centrepiece at Melbourne Park, Thursday the 10th of July 2025. Tickets now on sale at vafa.com.au. Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. Thanks to Medical Care, helping out 16,500 Victorians each and every week. Time to talk Prem B, Paddy's pet subject. And, well, one of the real stories of Prem B at the moment, Paddy, is the rise of Old Melburnians. They lost 4 of their first 5. They won 4 of their last 5 and are rolling along very nicely at the moment, making a move up the ladder. And joining us is the great man himself, Nathan Brown. Nathan, and thanks for your time, mate. Lovely to talk to you as always.
Pleasure, Jace. No worries at all.
Tell us about your year, because it has been a bit of a roller coaster. Obviously, the team came down from Premier Men's to Premier B at the start of the season. You've switched from Old Geelong back to Old Melburnians, and there was a few teething problems early. Lost 4 of your first 5 games, but your last 5, you've won 4 of your last 5 and really turned the season around. Talk us through the last sort of 6 months or so.
Yes, we've turned things around, Jace, but it has been a process. Obviously, the lads come down from Premier A, but we lost a lot of senior lads. So it's been the young boys getting used to us as new coaches, and also us coaches finding and seeing who could step up to senior footy in this new sort of little regen.
Brownie, mate, the last couple of games I want to speak about in particular focus, because it seems at this point of the year it's pretty tough sledding for a few clubs as far as availability goes and as you get into the depth of the season. But while others have stumbled a little bit, you guys have really made the jump. What's changed in this last couple of weeks, or is it just a case of the group now coming together in earnest?
It's a little bit of both. We're getting, we've been forced into giving opportunities to some of the under-19s and some of the players who have been playing consistently good in the reserves. And we've been able to find the right mix that have been able to play their roles and play to our system and setups and keep us pretty consistent but competitive as well.
In fairness, 4 out of your first 4 losses, 3 of them were by 5 points, 3 points and 4 points. So it wasn't like you were well off the pace. Was there a particular moment in the season that you can identify, be it on game day or at training, where things clicked for you? Because off the back of that 4-point loss to Caulfield in round 5, that was when you started to get on a run after that. You took care of Old Camberwell, Rovers, Carey and Fitzroy since. Yeah,
so Jace, we got to the bye and we'd had a sort of half a season of a good look, and we just got to have a refresh, reset, see what was working around contest and ball movement and defence, and sharpened a few things up, and also had a few players come back into the fold from injury. Dethridge, Spencer Anderson, and a couple others. And found some really good kids. Ollie Williams and Nicky Christian coming in and playing some super footy.
And Nathan, congratulations on the performance on the weekend. A very good win. Must be pleased with the defensive aspect of the way the team played. Certainly in the first 3 quarters, keeping your opponents to 2 goals. Is defence a real heavy emphasis that you try to implement on the team and on your style of play?
Yeah, we sort of build it from defence, Matty, and we put a bit of effort into it during the week in training. We review it a little bit, so and then we go out and train it, and the boys have been doing it a little bit better. It's taken a bit of time, but yeah, we really do value it, and that's not the back 6-7 defenders. That's from the full forward line right back.
2 really good wins over Old Geelong, your old team from last year. How much has inside knowledge of players, setups, strengths and weaknesses, etc., helped you? Because you really have done a number on Old Geelong twice this year. I know in the end it was 28 points, but the margin was out to 10 goals at 3/4 time.
Yeah, look, it certainly does. I know the boys inside out, and I know the place. It's such a good place, Jace, and as it worked out, it worked out really well. Young Nick Dixon had the opportunity. He unfortunately finished footy due to concussion, so I'd done 4 or 5 years there. It was ready. It was a great little handover, so it was really well set up. But in saying that, having to go and back and coach against them, I do have a little bit of inside knowledge on the boys and what their strengths and weaknesses are, and it definitely helps a little bit. But still, our boys had to front up and execute, and especially second time around, Jace, they come out with all guns blazing and were pretty physical, and our young lads had to stand up and ride that tide, and then play some good footy to get a good lead.
Nathan, you're in an unusual position of being one of a select few coaches who are coaching the same club for a second separate stint. Curious what the differences are in terms of your approach and the way you're approaching this second stint at the club compared to the first. Is there much different in terms of what you've learnt from your first spell there compared to this year?
Oh, I just think as you go along, Matty, you just learn so much in the caper, and I also listen and learn. I watch footy shows. I love First Crack, footy learning shows like that. I listen to the coaches, and I also, one of my best mates is Adam Uze, who's a senior coach. So I get some little pearls off the great man. But yeah, it's always evolving. And it's certainly changed from when I started out at OMs. There's one player left over, Jackson Payne, and the rest it's a whole brand new bunch of kids. So that's exciting too. Makes it a fresher coaching opportunity.
I had the pleasure of catching up with Adam pre-game on Sunday. I called the game for 7, Richmond and Adelaide, so I went down into the rooms and interviewed him pre-game, and all we spoke about...
Seen that, Jace, and it was a good call, mate.
Thank you. All we spoke about in the lead up to the interview, we're standing around as you do for 3 or 4 minutes before they're ready to do the interview. All we talked about was OMs. Didn't talk about Richmond at all. We were talking about OMs, what a great win it was yesterday against Old Geelong, and Noah, how his son's going. Noah Uze, he had a chance to come back and play again at OMs. He was a rising star nom, obviously, early in the season. It was wonderful just to see the passion and the excitement and the interest that Adam's got in what you're doing and what his son's doing at OMs.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I've known little Noah since he's a bubba, obviously. So, and then he's rocking up and I'm coaching him. I'm sure I with a couple of little coaching pearls come out, he has a little chuckle because he's seeing me in a totally different side. But we're grateful to have him. He's the star. He's got so much talent, and he's on his own little footy journey where hopefully he gets a little look at some more VFL, and obviously his dream to try and get drafted to play AFL footy. Also, for the flip side, that we got oozes in the rooms with all the boys after the game. How good's that?
Yeah, that's brilliant, isn't it? It's great to have that connection.
Love it.
Talking about Premier B, all year we've been saying it's the most competitive section in all of the VAFA, and I think the ladder bears witness to that. There's 2 games between 3rd and 8th that is an incredible competition. You guys sit 4th at the moment, 6 and 5, but percentage separates Old Melburnians in 4th, Old Geelong in 5th, Caulfield in 6th, Old Carey in 7th. You're all on 6 wins fighting for that 4th spot, and CYMS are a game clear of that, but could slip back to the pack at any time. What a fantastic competition this year it is, Nathan, and you just have to be on every week, don't you?
Oh, it's why I'm a little bit grayer, Jace. It's hard work. Honestly, it's such a good competition, but it's also a privilege, and it's why I honestly keep coming back to coaching in the VAFA as well, because it's such a good competition. So much respect from all of the teams and the clubs, and and it is a privilege to play in for us and the boys. And nothing's easy. Everything's hard, but putting my little coaching hat on, it's the hard that makes it great.
This weekend, you've got the challenge of Old Ivanhoe at Charlesworth Park. The games don't get any easier. What are you expecting from the Hoers?
No, it's going to be hard. They're a super team. We played them earlier in the year. They got so much talent. Their back line is so talented. Midfield is AFL standard. And then their forwards are so lively, dangerous, They've got Allen back. He's kicking goals. Mistress is a star of the competition for such a long time. Yeah. It's not going to be easy.
Brownie, we really appreciate your time, mate. Thanks for joining us on For the Love of the Game. Best of luck this weekend.
Matty, Paddy, Jace, love your work, lads. It's brilliant.
Always lovely to talk with Nathan Brown, Paddy. One of the genuinely nice people, not just in the VAFA, but in footy.
It's kind of like this with a lot of the Premier B coaches that I'm lucky enough to have a chat to of a Sunday night or Monday morning, where you get about 5 minutes of footy chat and then you just talk about how you're going. So it's just a wonderful opportunity, I think.
It's almost like you're part of all these teams, mate. You're like an extra player of theirs.
Oh, they don't want me playing.
You're the same age.
Trust me, they do not want me playing. Nathan Brown, he's just one of the loveliest fellas that you'll ever come across. So he's going beautifully at the Old Melburnians.
Well, that was a great win, wasn't it? 13,886 to 810.58. And as we mentioned in the interview, the margin's 28 points. And if you hadn't been following it throughout the day, you go, oh, okay, they had a solid win. It was a competitive game. But at one point, it was like 70 to 10. They belted Old Geelong early.
Yeah, the Ogs. So Coach Nick Dixon, who of course co-coached this team with Nathan Brown in previous seasons, he admitted that they were well below their best, but gave credit to the opposition and was pretty happy with the way that the game finished because of, as you mentioned, they were 10 goals down at three-quarter time. Percentage is so important in this competition, which we'll get to in a few minutes' time. They kicked the final 6 goals of the match to cut the margin down to 38 points. So they've dodged, I suppose, the full blow of the loss where they haven't had the 74, 80-point loss that really affects the way you sit in that glut of teams all chasing down third and fourth position. So it's a little bit of a bullet dodge for the smashing, but losing games at home's not something that the Ogs want to make a habit of. It's also the first time all season that the Ogs have actually dropped 2 in a row, which sort of indicates where they've been across the competition. They've always been able to find the responses. So all eyes to their contest this weekend. Yeah,
it's a time of the year when teams are starting to run a bit short on troops. They're a bit sore. They've got players going overseas, etc. And for some teams revel in it because they're not hit as hard as others. And for other teams, it's just, let's just hang on by the skin of our teeth and get to the bye, and then we can reassess and have a couple of weeks to refresh and go again. Old Trinity 13-12-90 defeated Old Camberwell 9-6-60.
Yes, another one where the Tees probably got going in the second half. Pretty much of a slog, really, in that first half, said Donald McDonald on the Sunday when I spoke to him. After half-time, the game really broke open for the Tees. Their midfielders got on top, the likes of Tom Wen and Ollie Scott, Christos Manasakis, Hugo McGlashan. And from there, 21-point half-time lead turned into a 48-point three-quarter time lead, and that was pretty much the game. The Tees were able to kill it off very early in the final term. The Wellers, though, again, importantly, kicking most of the score as the game continued through the final term to really cut down the margin and, again, avoid the brunt of the percentage blow. The Tees going really well. Neil Connell actually said to me that he reckons that that's the style of football they want to play ultimately, and they do think that the Tees are the best side in Premier B at this stage of the year, of course. They beat Old Ivanhoe a few weeks back. They're still in second position on the ladder, though, but that is decided by percentage.
In terms of the other match between Williamstown and Hampton Rovers, it was a very comprehensive win for Williamstown, 18-13, 121 to 9, 357 for the Rovers. In truth, this one could have been over at quarter time. It was 3-7, just to 2 behinds at the first break. And Williamstown were able to get their shooting boots on the second term, 6 goals, 2 goals straight. And from there, the lead only continued to grow. So that was a big win again for Willie. Yeah, 64-point winners, Kontazoglu and his men. My eye is drawn to a few Big V nominees. Will Bockmer, though, we'll speak about. 43 disposals, 12 clearances, 11 tackles, and a goal, and 2 goal assists. So just making his case
I think,
good timing.
To Luke Marnie, just saying, get me in a big V jumper and get me to the Queen Elizabeth Oval in Bendigo. He was superb. He's had a really superb 5 or 6 weeks now up to this point, having a great year with a few of those players. Interested to talk to Con about, I suppose, his communication to the team, because we've got to remember, going into the double bye this time last year, the CYs looked almost a certainty to go down to Premier C. Their record was really poor, but they were 2-10, I think, at that point of the year, and then had to rescue themselves.
Think of their last 12 months.
Remarkable.
It's been incredible from there.
So I was speaking to Con about how do you get the players up when every game feels like, you're holding on to, at this point, they're holding on to third position, which is better than trying to get out of ninth. And he said it's about consistency of message and a consistent standard, so you're not feeling like you're having to get the players up every week. They know they have to play at a constantly high level. You can't afford any slip-ups. So they do the job against Hampton Rovers, still looking for their first win of the season. They get Fitzroy the next week, and they've just got to take those 2 games and go to the double bye in third spot, which is just a great result for the CYs.
The ladder leaders, Old Ivanhoe, too good for Old Carey in this match on the road, and Old Ivanhoe were a team that were able to hit the scoreboard early, 7-2 in the opening term. And then filled the boots again at the last term with another 7-1, a final score of 21-13, 139 to 9-14, 68. So they maintain their hold on top spot of the ladder, only with percentage Old Ivanhoe, but another big win for them.
Did the margin surprise you, Paddy?
It did a little bit, because we remember back to the corresponding matchup earlier in the season at Chelsworth Park, and the Panthers were ahead pretty much for the duration until the final quarter, where Old Ivanhoe showed its class and ran over the top of the Panthers. This time around, I don't think I was expecting the margin to be 139 to 68. So what's that? A quick math, 71-point victory. That's why you did maths and I didn't. So Jared Geeshan's men, I think they're going really well, but it's a depth of squad thing. So there's a real focus on building the team, pretty much up to 30, 32 players, reserves involved, under 19s involved, and bringing those guys through. And Old Carey just a little bit short-handed at this time of year. The example of that, I know Brownie mentioned this in the phone call, Sam Allen, who hasn't barely played all year after a hamstring injury at Werribee VFL. He comes in a couple of weeks ago, kicked 4 goals on the weekend. You look back to 2 weeks ago, I think, where Luke Scuderi was the guy who came in from the reserves, found himself some form and kicked 4 of his own. So they're just starting to now be able to go, no worries, we've got some selection pressure. We can bring some other guys in and start rotating through this best 22. And then when you have Paddy Nash racking up 42 disposals, does tend to help when your top end is as good as Old Ivanhoe's top end is. There's a real hunger, says Jared Geeshan, around the players to get the opportunity at senior level and then hold on to it, because selection pressure is tight. So this is a team that has assembled itself really well over the last couple of years to make a genuine tilt, I think, at A grade. Speaking of tight, this ladder is tight. Top 2 teams have cleared out by a couple of games. It's Old Ivanhoe, 9-2, 142.5, ahead of Trinity, 9-2, 131.1. So 11 and a bit % between Old Ivanhoe and Old Trinity at the moment, both locked together on 36 points. Do they meet again between now and the end of the year to potentially decide the minor premiership? I believe they do. I'll just have to quickly track down. 2 games back to Williamstown CYMS. They sit at 7-4 on 28 points. Then it's a game back to the next 4 teams. So battling for 4th spot right now, you've got Old Melburnians on 24 at 129.5. You've got Old Geelong on 24 at 103.5, so that's a 26% gap. So Old Melburnian's got a pretty handy lead. It's almost effectively it is worth a game. Yep. Then you've got Old Geelong 103.5, Old Caulfield Grammarians 102.3, so only 1% between them, and then another percent back to Old Carey at 101.2. So those 3 teams all very tight together, but amazing to think that Old Carey sit in 7th spot. They're basically equal 4th, but for percentage, and Old Camberwell are only 1 game back. And the only spot that the ladder's really split, the top 8 teams are all still very much in the run of a chance to make finals. Old Camberwell sit 8th, but they're only 1 game outside the top 4, which is remarkable with 7 to play. Fitzroy and Hampton look to be the 2 teams that will be going down. Fitzroy are 1-10, Hampton yet to win a game. So no real relegation race to happen, you would think, in Premier B. But gee, the race for the top 4 is going to be amazing, particularly 3rd and 4th, given that Old Ivanhoe and Old Trinity have both cleared out on the field. But they do play again, don't they? They do. So they play again in round 17 of the season. Yeah. So that's just a beautifully timed thing. I just wanted to carry on your point about the ladder. So from 4th to 8th, it's separated by a game. And then from 5th to 8th, it's separated by a game and something like, I reckon, 3% on the ladder, because Old Campbell are at 105.9 as well with that game back. So ripping competition. Caulfield Grammarians, the team we didn't mention, getting it done over Fitzroy. This was a really good game of footy, actually, at Brunswick Street Oval. And I really think the Roys are going to be the team that ruin a few years. We're going to go through the duration of the season. This is a good footy team that won 5 games of A-grade footy in 2024 that still has some very, very handy players. Caulfield got away with it late in a high-scoring contest on a smaller ground. I do think that team, they're not necessarily going to get out of the drop zone, but I think they're going to have a bit of a heartbreaker role as this season continues on.
20-goal first half. So if you like a high-scoring game, this was the one
Watch
for
that
you.
one on replay.
Yeah, and the score's level at halftime. Cancelled out by a low-scoring final to one goal each, but a great tussle in its own way. So we had the best of everything in that game. It was a terrific contest.
Premier B, what a competition it is. Next up, we will talk Premier C. That's next on For the Love of the Game.
Are you looking to grow your business? William Buck are more than just accountants and advisors who can develop strategic growth plans for your business. With over 125 years' experience, William Buck has expertise in navigating through challenging times and has been working closely with the VAFA community, creating positive change for individuals, businesses and community organisations. William Buck's team of specialist advisors work collaboratively, providing you with 360 support. Schedule a complimentary consultation today by visiting williambuck.com.
The best footballers from across the VAFA will run out on Elsternwick Park to take on the Perth Footy League in the Big V's centenary year in 2 weeks' time. It's the Big V doubleheader, Saturday, July 12 from 1 p.m. at Elsternwick Park, celebrating 100 years of representative amateur footy. Tickets are $10, available at the gate. Don't miss this historic occasion. See you there. Long live the Big V.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. Thanks to Mick Wicare. It's time to talk Premier C and an incredible milestone. An incredible milestone over the weekend that we want to celebrate here on For the Love of the Game. A man who played his 400th VAFA game. Not only 400 games, 400 games, I believe, for one club. That club is Pegs. His name is Andrew Frazer, and he joins us now. Fraze, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Am I right in saying you're Pegs born and bred?
That's it. Yep. Just the one club since way back, a very long time ago now.
Because your mum and dad, Alex and Di, they're life members, aren't they? Your dad coached in the 90s and you ran water as a kid for the club.
I did, yeah. So dad coached 94 to 97 and, ran a bit of water, did a bit of boundary and that sort of thing as about a 12, 13-year-old. Yeah.
So really are born and bred. So was your dream always to grow up and play footy for Pegs?
I probably wanted to play for Melbourne, really, when I was little and then realised I was probably going to get there pretty early, realised that. So, I just kind of naturally rolled out of school. I played like local EX-AFL as a junior, rolled out of year 12. Actually, no, I played a little bit in year 12 for Pegs and just stayed there, just never left.
I think you played some under-19s, didn't you? Maybe even year 11, year 12. What was your first, What would have been your first year down at the club?
So my first playing year was 2000. Yeah. So it was under 19s. I think I was still 17 then. So that's when I started. Yeah.
And in terms of success, you're captain of arguably, I think, the best ever under 19 team that's come through Pegs, and you won the flag in 2002.
We did, yep. So we beat Ormond, I believe. We won that. There was some really good players in that team that went on to play a lot of senior footy for Pegs. So, that was a very, very talented team, I reckon, back in the day.
What other success have you had? I think have you won a Resi's flag and a senior flag as well? You've got the whole trifecta?
Yep. So about the year we went up to A grade, I played in the reserves premiership, the B grade one. And then in 2017, finally got a senior premiership. So it took 15 years we got there. And then we won the senior premiership again in 2022. So two senior ones, which have been very, very nice.
Andrew, when you played Game 300, you've got a little snippet in this article I can read on the Herald Sun website, which says you're feeling pretty young and fresh at the moment. And as long as they keep picking you, you'll keep on playing. How are you feeling now? That was written 7 years ago. How are you feeling now in 2025?
I've had 3 kids since then, so probably not feeling as fresh. Probably a little less sleep. Probably don't ask me on a Sunday. Probably don't feel so fresh. By the time sort of Monday, Tuesday rolls around, still weirdly feeling fresh and pretty young. Yeah, wife might say different.
Yes, correct. And still fresh enough to be playing senior footy as well. We usually see these milestones achieved in the thirds or the reserves, that kind of business. But you keep playing top flight footy as far as your club is concerned. What keeps you at the top?
I I guess training and recovery. I'm fortunate enough to own a couple of gyms, so my job is kind of at a gym, so I can sort of just I can be sitting in like recovery boots or just kind of working out. So yeah, I think that kind of probably is the biggest help. And yeah, I just keep enjoying it. So sort of the younger guys keep me feeling young. So I think that's probably, part of it. And maybe a fair bit of luck, I think, as well. Not getting majorly injured along the journey.
Andrew, congratulations on the achievement. Starting in 2000, just for what it's worth, is insane. I was still a couple of years away from starting school back then. So
I wasn't born, so there you go.
It's so for someone to be playing a seniors career for that length of time is an extraordinary feat. What is it that keeps bringing you back to the footy year on year? Is it what is it that you love most about playing the game and playing for Pegs that keeps drawing you back year after year?
Yeah, look, I think it just has to be fun. Like anything you sort of do in life, if it's fun and there's enjoyment there, you'll keep coming. So most of believe it or not, I'm not actually the youngest player there. There's a guy, Daniel Flaherty. He's actually a year or nearly 2 years older than me. So I think
he's got to keep going then.
Yep.
He's got to keep going. So he cops most of the old guy jokes. I still get a fair few of them. So that helps. So he's one of my very, very close mates that's still playing. So all the other close mates that I grew up with have long retired. And so you just keep making new friends as you go along. I think half the team wasn't even born back in 2000 when I started, but there's always this influx of new guys. Our captain at the moment, Zach Genovese, I remember he's probably nearly ready to retire himself as well. He's gone all the way through from under 19s to be captain now. And I remember going probably as an older guy to speak at the school, trying to encourage all those year 12 guys to come. So, yeah, there's just this amazing evolution of young guys coming through and just, having fun. It's just a very friendly, inviting club. My wife loves coming up with the other families and the three kids come up on a Saturday and run around. Angus, our boy, he's old enough to kick the footy now. He's 6. So, yeah, he comes along too. So, yeah, it's a good, friendly family environment there.
He'll have a chance to play with his dad in about 15 years. That'll be perfect. What sort of a player are you, Andrew? And what now and back in the day, has your role changed over the years?
Yeah, I've kind of played all positions. I think maybe that's why I keep getting a game. I mean, even a couple of weeks ago, I think I played backline, midfield, and forward at various stages in the one game. So, I probably started off younger days, midfield. And then that 2017 premiership, I think I was half back that year, so sort of played mainly backline. And then, the 2022 one, I sort of played half forward. Was still kicking somehow a few goals and went well. And then this year, kind of literally a mix. Forward, mid, and last week started midfield, and the week before that forward line. So I just kind of go where they need me, basically.
What's the essence of the club, mate? And what does it mean to you, Pegs?
Yeah, look, it's just kind of, it's been every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for the last 25 years, and it's just. I know I said it before, but it's just some really good people. It's your friendship group. It's sort of what you do Saturday night after the game. You go out and do your sort of things. You have those fun moments at training, especially in the middle of winter. Anyone that's played at Pegs at the runway, they don't love playing at 2:00 on a Saturday, but trying to train there at 6:00 on a Tuesday and a Thursday can sometimes be pretty windy and cold. So it's just a comfortable spot where everyone feels welcome, whether they're the worst player in the team, best player in the team. It's really one big group that's kept us sustained for this time. Yeah.
In the midst of all the celebrations of your 400th game, there was a game of football on the weekend, and your boys got a really important win. You're sitting 5th on a ladder at the moment. How have you viewed the team season thus far?
Well, it's been pretty good. There seems to be a little bit of a gap trying to get into that top 4. Some really good teams up there. So we're just kind of hanging on to that finals hope. It's a really young list. We've got a new coach in this year, Rob Kerr, who's he's been really impressive. Had a few coaches over the journey, but just a really switched on guy with game style and gameplay, and just constantly teaching the group what to do. So there's some older guys, but there's also some young guys that have got a lot of upside. So Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the teams in the top 4 slip up. I think we could slip into the 4 and maybe do some damage in September. Yeah.
Your next 2 games, Glenora, Old McKinnon and Paran, so a chance for to play teams below you, and then you get the Crackets and Beads in a couple of weeks. They're the team that are 2 games ahead of you. So win that and you pull back a game on them and then hope that they have another stumble and you're right back in the mix again.
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't really have any room to move. When we play the sides around us, we just have to win. And that St. Bede's one in a couple of weeks is going to be huge for us.
I'll ask you a question you were probably asked at game 300 and game 350 as well, Andrew. How long can you keep going for? How many years can we pencil you in beyond this one?
It's probably like the same answer that it's been. I just kind of keep turning up and they keep picking me, which is good, whether it's seniors or reserves. One day it might be thirds or Club 18. The body still feels good. Every year my wife sort of says, surely that's it. And then she kind of gave up asking. She's like, okay, looks like he's going again. So, I think I'm playing next year and we'll see how we go.
Perfect. There's no such thing we always say as retirement in the VAFA. It's just a case of I'm not playing right now. Who would you like to thank, Andrew? Obviously, you don't get there to 400 by yourself. Who would you like to thank? Who's been most influential on your career?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many people that have been sort of influential. I mean, starting from the young age, mum and dad always taking me to games. Dad was my coach for a lot of the journey. He's actually a VAFA umpire now, amazingly. So he's played and coached and now he's umpiring. And so, just obviously those people kicking the footy with you in the background. And then there's sort of your mates that you play with. And then, these days, obviously my wife and mum. So Al, my wife, supporting me, 3 kids under 6. She takes them for all day Saturday because I'm sort of out the door and not, finishing playing till 5 o'clock. And then Tuesday nights and Thursday nights, I'm out of the house by 5 o'clock and not home till 8, 9 o'clock. So, I mean, without her, I literally couldn't play. And then mum as well, she comes and does the babysitting to help Al out, trying to get the babies to sleep. So, literally without those 2 in particular, these last 5 years, I do need to thank them big time.
Andrew, thank you so much for everything you've contributed and continue to contribute to the VAFA. We often say, we're called for the love of the game. It's what the competition's all about. And obviously you've dedicated pretty much your entire adult life and then some to this football club and this competition. So we sincerely thank you for that. Congratulate you on 400 and we look forward to talking to you game 500.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, guys.
So as we mentioned, Pegs 10-point winners over Mazenod 12-8-80 to Mazenod 10-10-70. Mazenod kicking the only couple of goals of the final term, but Pegs able to hang on for that win and celebrate Andrew's 400th in style. Elsewhere, St. Bede's Mentone had to work hard over Glenora Old McKinnon, the much improved Griffins. In the end, it was the Tigers 9-13-67 defeating the Griffins 8-12-60. Parkdale Vultures massive win over Marcelin. They filled up and just boosted their percentage even further. 23 goals, 21-58 defeated Marcelin 9-3-57. Big win for Beaumaris as well. 21-16-142 defeated Parkside 3-2-20 by 122 points. And then a third big triple-digit win. It was Ajax 18-11-119 defeated Paran 2-7-19 by an even 100 points. And Paddy, we've spoken about as the Premier C season has dragged on, there has been a real split between the haves and the have-nots. And from a fixturing perspective, the top group and the bottom group came up against each other on the weekend and the carnage was the result.
Yeah, one of those tough winter weekends across Premier C, and there's some skyscraping percentages on the ladder as we look at it. Parkdale Vultures, of course, 11 from 11 on 44 points with a 181.47 percentage. Their 2 wins ahead of Beaumaris with 9 wins on 185 and Ajax also on 9 wins, 184.
So those big fill-ups, whilst they seem like just fun days at the office, when you look at those top 3 percentages, Parkdale 181.5, Beaumaris 185.1 and Ajax 184.6. They are all right there. And in the end, that top 2 double chance spot looks like it may well come down to percentage. So whether or not you beat someone by 20 goals or 21 goals might actually make a difference at the end of the year.
It's pretty remarkable if you're Beaumaris and you're 9-2 with a percentage of over 185 and you're still looking over your shoulder just to make sure your position on the ladder is safe. So that's the top 3 that you spoke of. And then St Bede's Mentone Tigers, don't count them out. They're on 32 points, 8 wins, 3 losses, but the percentage at a paltry 116 as compared to the top three. Pegs, as Andrew Fraser mentioned, just knocking at the door, 6 and 5. They are 2 wins back, and then Glenara, Old McKinnon, 4 wins, Mazenod, 3 wins, Parkside, 3 wins, and then the drop zone, Marcelin, 2 and 9, and Paran yet to score a win in Premier C for 2025.
So, Matty, it looks like a race for the 5 to go into 4. And then there's 4 teams in the drop zone. Mazenod at 12 points, Parkside at 12 points, Marcelin at 8, and Paran yet to win a game. So really that second relegation spot probably to be determined between Mazenod, Parkside, and Marcelin. Maybe Glenara McKinnon, but someone else would have to get on a bit of a winning run.
Yeah, there's a couple of really interesting battles on the ladder, both at the top end for that double chance and then the relegation battles as well. And it just goes to show if you've got an opportunity for a big win, regardless of what point of the season is, you've got to cash in because percentage now more than ever is looking particularly crucial at both ends of the table.
And Premier C is the perfect example of why the relegation promotion system is so good, because in a situation where you didn't have that, the bottom 5 teams would all be like, well, our season's over. We can't go any further. We're not going to play finals. But everyone pretty much of these 10 teams right now is still in a race.
And we're going to get a ripping little contest before we head to the bye as well, because you have Parkdale Vultures this weekend coming up against Beaumaris. That's 1v2.
Top 2 teams.
Yep. So crucial, I think, for the 4 points naturally, but also who cops the percentage whack out of this one, because that's going to start to count when we get to the run home, Jace.
And Ajax will be waiting to see as well, because they're going to get, if they can get the job done on the weekend against Mazenod, then they know that one of those teams, Parkdale or Beaumaris, is going to drop a game. And if it happens to be Beaumaris, then Ajax suddenly go a game clear in second.
Scary thing is, one of those teams could win by 10 goals and they'll probably still cop a percentage.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. Next up, we'll talk divisions with Brayden May as For the Love of the Game continues.
Are you looking to grow your business? William Buck are more than just accountants and advisors who can develop strategic growth plans for your business. With over 125 years' experience, William Buck has expertise in navigating through challenging times and has been working closely with the VAFA community, creating positive change for individuals, businesses and community organisations. William Buck's team of specialist advisors work collaboratively, providing you with 360 support. Schedule a complimentary consultation today by visiting williambuck.com.
Tickets are now on sale for the VAFA's 2025 Big V Gala Dinner presented by City Power. It's a landmark event, the largest function that VAFA has ever staged, and it's celebrating 100 years of Big V representative football. This historic evening will serve as the official opening to the Rep Football Weekend, offering a unique opportunity to honour the legacy of the Big V and its enduring significance within the VAFA community. The Big V Gala Dinner will bring together past players, coaches, club representatives and supporters to reflect on a century of tradition, achievement and pride. The evening promises to be one of the most significant in the VAFA's history. You don't want to miss it. It's at Centrepiece at Melbourne Park, Thursday the 10th of July 2025. Tickets now on sale at vafa.com.au. Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. Thanks to Mequicare, Jason Bennett, Paddy Grindlay, Matthew Donald, and VAFA newshound Brayden May, who scours the VAFA up and down with a microscope, a clipboard, and some sort of white lab coat, presumably, each week to get the very best stories from up and down the divisions. Brayden, welcome.
Hello, guys. How are we?
I'm really well, mate. We're about to talk Ton Watch, and one man we've got our eye on is Crusher Luke Ashen from Oakley. And I'm just doing my homework. Oh, yes, he's had another good week.
Yeah, he's absolutely flying. 53 goals in 10 games now on the weekend in that win over Brunswick. He's absolutely flying off the back of Luke Departed, a name that a lot of VAFA supporters will be familiar with, and he's just owned up that forward line for the Crushers. He's got so many young kids around him and with the responsibility.
Mate, I want to also look at a few recruits. Usually we're not spending our time looking at transfers lists in June and July, but there's an interesting one that's bobbed up at Ormond.
Yeah, this one caught my eye. I hope the name in Lachlan Flipovic, where he's coming across mid-season. The Mondas had spoken before, but due to some personal things, he wasn't quite ready to go, but they've got him in for the back season. And look, I think the name on paper is one thing, but his experience on such a young side is going to be huge, and it might be the wild card come finals time.
I saw a bit of him, Paddy Donald, when he was playing for Old Brighton last season, where he was, of course, the ruck forward, and then the Flockhart brothers came in and probably pushed him out of the senior squad. Do you reckon he can have some impact throughout the back end of the year?
Yeah, absolutely I can. And he was an important contributor in a very good team last season. So there's no doubt he's a very quality player. He's going to make any team better and have no doubt that he can make a big impact between now and season's end.
Anything else in Division 1, Brayden, before we move to Division 2?
I think it's just worth touching on Q. I think they're one that's almost flown under the radar this season, despite how good their form's been. One guy I'm really play out over now and the rest of the season is Sam Heaton. He's got 9 goals in his last 3 games since coming to his lineup. Goal kickers coming into September, they're so important, and if he can keep up this run, he might get premiership hopes.
If we look at the Division 1 ladder, Ormond sit atop things. They're 11 and zip on the year in second Old Peninsula, third Q and fourth Preston Bullants. Oakley just outside, Matthew Donald, if you'll believe this, by 0.45 or 0.55% out of fourth position, 7 and 4 Preston Bullants, 7 and 4 Oakley. It's a tight run thing, a close run thing for fourth position. Then Brunswick in 6th on 5 and 6. And there's a bit of a gap down to UHSVU in 7th and Monash Blues in 8th. Elstonwick with 1 win, Therry Penola with 1 win in the relegation zones, 9th and 10th as we head towards winter in earnest. Division 2, Brayden, where do you want to start?
I think we might start at the top, and the change at the top of the ladder with Cobras now in prime position heading into the week before the bye. They got a really good win over South Melbourne District, so emerging as probably the best of the rest outside the top 4 based on previous weeks. They had that really strong run of form, but now back-to-back losses. But the Cobras were able to jump on top as Canterbury. Bit of a surprise result, beating the highly fancied St. Mary's Salesian by 24 points. One I want to touch on from Canterbury is Ryder Duffy. So he's only 16 or 17. He's played 2 games. He's been best of field in. Now, it's a remarkable effort for a kid that was playing in the APS program, and he's come across and decided to test himself against the older bodies, and he kicked goals in 2 games now. He might be one of the finds of the season.
That's a big result, that win for Canterbury against St Mary's on a couple of fronts. Firstly, because it means we've got a new leader at the top of the table. Old Yarra Cobras moving half a game clear, but also digs Canterbury out of the relegation zone. So this has huge ramifications as we reach the run home.
No, definitely. Back-to-back wins now for Canterbury, and maybe they've just found their best. Like, they did have a bit of list turnover after their promotion, and now maybe they've got that settled sort of side, and who knows, they probably won't play finals footy unless they go on a remarkable run, but they will help shape the top 4.
I really enjoy the Division 2 ladder, Matty and Brayden, because Old Yarra, they're atop the ladder, 9 wins, 1 loss and the 1 draw, which makes things really interesting because St Mary's Salesian are 2 points behind them with 9 wins and 2 losses. The top 2 positions. West Brunswick close behind, 8 and 3 in third. Whitefriars rounding at the top 4 with 7 wins, 3 losses and a draw. So it's decided by 2 games, the top 4. Then you get a bit of a gap back to MHSOB and South Melbourne Districts in 5th and 6th. St John's in 7th. Canterbury in 8th. And then the bottom 2, Hawthorn with 2 wins and Aquinas with the 1 in Division 2. And there's another ruck I see, Brayden, that's made a return to MHSOB.
Yeah, Will Sir's come back after starting the season out in the Mornington Peninsula comp with Somerville. Big men, they don't grow on trees and they're so highly valuable. He was best of field in the Unicorns win on the weekend. Will Hellier returned to the lineup with 5 goals. So a really big bounce back for Melbourne High School old boys after a tough run against some sides that you probably would have fancied them against. But hopefully he can keep that form up. The week off that's looming will be handy for him as well. The big boys always need a rest.
And then moving to Division 3, do we have a leading contender as the best forward in that division that has emerged based on his performance over the weekend?
Yeah, I think Blake Williams is probably the best forward in this division. He's currently leading the goal kicking. He's VAFA squad for Big V contention. He kicked 6 against the highly fancied North Brunswick, and Box Hill North are just knocking on the door. I think we almost thought the top 4 was starting to break away in the Division 3 competition, but it's really close in the last couple of weeks, and it's going to turn into a run-in. If you can win the old-fashioned 8-point games, you might be playing finals footy.
And then for the Falcons, a big milestone at the weekend, a 50th game?
Yeah, Matty Pahekin played his 50th game for the club, and it came at a good time. They've won 5 in a row, and they've almost snuck up on the top 4. They're just a game outsiders. I'm sure we'll touch on the ladder in a second. just the danger side, they've got their best footy this middle part of the season, and as I think all coaches will tell you, any win during the winter, the wet, the cold, where people are away, are bonus wins. So they're one to keep an eye on for the next 7 weeks.
Powerhouse atop the ladder by 2 wins, but then, very close indeed. The next, 5 positions decided by 2 games. So you've got Richmond Central in second, Wattle Park in third, North Brunswick in fourth, all on 8 wins, 3 losses. Richmond Central with the percentage of 203.2 though. Atop that, Wattle Park 178.0, North Brunswick 177.2. Albert Park just a game back in fifth on 7-4. Box Hill North a game further back, 6-5. Latrobe, Swinburne, Chadstone and Ely Park round out the Division 3 ladder. Matthew and Jason.
Brayden, I know you're the VAFA newshound, but I have some red-hot breaking news straight off the press. It's news even to your ears. I have just been through the transfers list because transfers have just happened by the end of June for the VAFA, so players that are coming into the VAFA. I can tell you there's 5 former AFL and AFLW players that are joining the VAFA for the back half of the year, which could be massive difference makers in the race for a number of different premierships. And their names are as follows. We'll start with the AFLW players and where they are heading. Former Adelaide Crow, Jess Waterhouse, is going to Powerhouse. Former Carlton and West Coast player, Jess Hosking, is going to Glen Ira Old McKinnon. And then there are 3 AFL men's players coming into the VAFA. Former Sydney Ruckman, I think he might have been at West Coast as well, Callum Sinclair is landing at Caulfield Grammarians. Former Hawk and West Coast Eagle, Xavier Alice, is heading to Old Melburnians. Oh. And former Geelong Premiership player, you may have heard of him, his name is Tom Hawkins, and he's heading to Old Melburnians as well. So Callum Sinclair, Xavier Ellis, Tom Hawkins, Jess Hosking and Jess Waterhouse all coming to the VAFA, Brayden.
That is a huge result. That's really exciting. And if you can, get out and watch those talented footballers because, wow, they're not going to just make a difference to what they can produce on the field, but a lot of those, having spoken to them previously, are going to add a lot to the off-field community that is so amazing in the VAFA as well.
Brayden, our KTV doubleheader this week from 11:35 on Community TV takes us to Waverley Oval. It's De La Salle versus Uni Blues.
Yeah, big game. The current bottom 2, but hopefully D-La, they'll be hoping to break through for their first win of the season. And Uni Blues, a side that probably on paper have been below par, obviously, with a new coach this year. But if they can put it together in the back half of the season, they're obviously a side that you don't want to face when they're on form. And
a critical game, given Collegians took care of D-La on the weekend, got the points to jump themselves up out of the relegation zone, and Uni Blues can do the same thing. They can leapfrog back over Collegians and get out of the drop zone themselves.
Yeah, most definitely. As we know, these games are so important at the moment. But if Blues do drop this one, they'll feel like it's 4 points lost, definitely.
Yeah, most certainly. So that's coming up. Community TV, 11:35 from Saturday. What else are you going to write about at the back end of the week, mate? Plenty going on.
Yeah, obviously going to take a look with some of these last-minute clearances that you touched on as well and how that might shape up with the fortunes as well, and hopefully have a bit of an update in regards to where we're at with Big V stuff and chat to some of the greats of previous eras.
Yeah, some wonderful stories coming up over the next couple of weeks as we count down to Big V weekend next weekend. Tickets will be available at the gate, incidentally, at Elstonwick Park, Saturday, July 12. The women's game followed by the men's game, both those teams taking on the Perth Footy League. The first game, the women's game, will start from around about 1 o'clock-ish, and then the men's game from 3:30, so it'll be a twilight finish to that one. It's going to be really exciting coming up Saturday, July 12. More on that on the VAFA website and across all our socials, etc., over the next week and a half. Brayden, thanks so much for your time, mate. Always a pleasure.
Thanks very much, guys. Speak soon.
The best footballers from across the VAFA will run out on Elstonwick Park to take on the Perth Footy League in the Big V's centenary year in 2 weeks' time. It's the Big V doubleheader, Saturday, July 12 from 1 p.m. at Elstonwick Park, celebrating 100 years of representative amateur footy. Tickets are $10, available at the gate. Don't miss this historic occasion. See you there. Long live the Big V.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. It is time to talk our women's competition, our VAFA women's competition. We're going to start in Premier Women's, and the big story of the weekend was the history-making win by the Bowie Sharks. The Bowie Sharks winning their first ever Premier Women's senior match, and joining us is their coach, SAM CALOGERO. Sam, congratulations.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, it was great day and good celebrations and good reward for all the effort that the girls have done over the last 6 months. So fantastic.
And so much effort does go into it. And I guess that's where the emotional sort of outburst comes from too, isn't it, Sam? Because it's not just about the effort you put in that week or during the game when times get tough. It's the weeks and the months and the offs, everything sort of built together. You put all this time and effort in, you're working just as hard as every other team in the comp, and you're not getting the payoff, and finally it arrives.
Yeah, pretty well said there, Jason. I think we've put in a lot of hours in regards to just getting our girls better and creating an environment that's inclusive and really growth mindset and being in what we're doing. And we've gone up from B grade, which is fantastic, up to A grade. Playing with teams and clubs that have been there for many years, and to get a just reward as a club for what we've been through for 7 months is really beneficial and a historic day for us as a club. But we'll just keep working hard to just what we have to do to just always get better. Our goal is always to get better and trust the process and work on all of us together.
Sam, you referenced the difficult off-season that you had, and it's certainly one that you very few people would ever have to sort of endure, and you wouldn't wish upon your worst enemy the loss of Bianca Jones and Holly Bowles, two of your most popular players around the football club who tragically lost their lives to methanol poisoning in Laos, and it was something that touched the entire community. How did it touch your footy club, Sam? And as a coach, these are the sort of things that in your wildest dreams, you never imagine that you're going to be in a position where you have to manage this sort of situation.
Yeah, really great question, Jason. And I want to thank the whole football community on how they've shown their love and respect and anything they can do for us as Beaumaris Football Club. It's always seen as it's fantastic. I guess for me, I took on the as this was going on. So for me, being new to the club and as a coach, I just wanted to wrap my arms around the club and show the girls that I'm there to care and get us through this together. So it is a new me and all of us as coaches to go through and the club, but we're doing stuff gradually, and there's moments that we have, and everyone has moments, but we're just getting through it. It's great that we had the Holly and Bianca tribute game a fair few weeks ago, and having the parents there was phenomenal, and having all the girls play and how Fitzroy supported us. It's been a journey, and it will continue to be a journey, and for some of our girls, football being together is their way of getting over this, and just always remembering that football is more than just a game. It's about where people can come to really work together and get over what is going to be always difficult for us as a club and as a family and as a group.
Well said. From a coaching perspective, Sam, there's always a roller coaster ups and downs in footy seasons, and times when you feel like giving your players a bit of a rev, they haven't delivered, or they've been a bit flat, or they've been a bit distracted, or they haven't been completely switched on. How conscious have you been as a coach? Have you had to change your method at times? Have you had to pull back at times? Just knowing that there's this enormous challenge that's been put through this group over the last sort of 7 or 8 months, that, is an extra level of complexity that an average football coach at suburban level doesn't have to deal with.
I think most important thing for me, or all of us as coaches, because we're a whole brand new coaching group, is us understanding and learning each other, and we're all going to have different moments, etc. I'm not someone to rant and rave and stuff like that. I'm pretty quiet. I guess it's just understanding your athletes, understanding what they may be going through, and building relationships is really important, and what makes them tick. I think the days of ranting and raving are, for me, done. I think you don't get messages through. It's about understanding your group, understanding the individual and what makes them tick, to get them to understand what they may be going through, etc.
Sam, I wanted to touch on your 2025 season so far. So, of course, you start life in Premier B. You go really well there, and then you get the opportunity to be graded up into William Buck Premier Women's. Your first game in that division, you cop Caulfield Grammarians, who've been the standard setter so far in top flight. You lose that game by 73 points, and you, I imagine, would have a fairly strong understanding of the standard required in this competition. How's the step up been, and how have your players responded?
Yeah, like for us, it's been a journey. Like I guess we look at everything we've gone through this year. We've had the Holly and Bianca. We've had new coaching staff, learning new methods of how we play, but also going up. The exciting part is going up to A grade, and we know if we look at our list, we're a very young list.
Yep.
And we're playing against clubs that have been there for quite some time, but also have been together for quite some time as well. They're bigger, stronger than us. Their age demographics are a little bit older than us as well. So we know that we're going there to take on the challenge. We're in regards to we keep believing in what we're doing, that we're getting better, that we're going to learn so much more on how we play against the best. And that's what our mindset has been, is just believe in us. Believe in yourselves, believe in the process. And it is a great journey and a great learning for us this year to where we want to be in 12, 24 months' time. We'll look different. Every time we play, we'll look different. We've got to get better. And what we'll look like now will look differently in 12 months' time. So that's our mindset.
Sorry, Sam, congratulations on last weekend. Given the challenges that you've faced this year, both in terms of the club, I'm curious what you've learned about yourself throughout 2025.
For me, it's about understanding and changing different goals at different times. I guess at one stage, we were in Premier 4. At early on was just consolidating, getting the group together, etc. I think for me, it's about not trying to put too much information to our girls. It's just a step by step and looking at the crystal ball of what will look like now to what will look like in 12, 18 months' time. So it's incremental growth, not giving too much information all at once.
I want to take you back to Saturday at Fear on Reserve against Willie CYMS. And come half-time, it wasn't looking like a history-making day. You hadn't kicked a goal. You kicked two behinds, in fact, for the day. They'd kicked 2-2. They were 2 goals in front of you. In the third term, you guys clearly dominated. You held Willie CYMS scoreless, but you kicked 1-5. So there would have been an element of frustration there, I'm sure. You're a point down at three-quarter time. What was your message?
My message was, we really wanted to cut off their exits. So we're really good at just doing short little exits across the ground. We wanted them to actually bring the ball long, so long down the line. And my message was, we're so into this. We keep talking about belief in the group, belief in ourselves. And, I think that today's the day where we start making history for us. And as a group and as a club, today's about us making history. How about we go and do it well and run them off their feet?
Fantastic. And in the final term, you took the lead early in the last quarter. The excitement must have been amazing. You end up kicking 3 goals, 2. You held them to 1-1, and in the end, you got home by 12 points. Talk me through the emotions of that final term, Sam, and what went through your mind when the siren sounded and you looked at all your girls just deliriously happy, probably for the first time since you've really been around the group. They've had that level of happiness.
Yeah, I think I showed a fair bit of emotion. I sort of did a couple of fist pumps, which I'm pretty quiet, but I think a lot of relief and just proud for the girls, the group, the whole group, all of us together. It's not just who played seniors. Our reserves had a fantastic win as well, with low numbers, with everyone going overseas, etc., which all clubs are experiencing. But for us to win accordingly, and it was just reward, and seeing the smiles on everyone's faces, and then just a big relief that their belief and their joy was amazing. And I was really, really proud of everyone.
Must have been a wonderful, wonderful day, and one that none of you will ever forget, Sam. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. And look, congratulations again on the win. And we all have nothing but admiration for you and your program, what you've been through, how you have represented yourselves, your club, your family, the entire competition over the last 6 or 7 months. Absolutely thrilled for you to get this win, and may it be the first of many.
thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for the whole football community. We're so appreciative of all your support. Thank you so much.
Elsewhere in Premier Women's over the weekend, a massive win for Old Scotch, 16-13, 109 to Fitzroy, no score. Caulfield Grammarians kept on keeping on with a 5-goal win over Old Geelong, 7-5-47 to 2-5-17. We mentioned that Beaumaris game in the end. The final scoreline was Beaumaris 4-9-33, Williamstown 3-3-21, and Kew had the bye.
So Caulfield still atop the ladder, no surprise. 10 wins from 10 games played. Old Scotch 8-2, St Kevin's 8-2 in second and third. Though Old Scotch with a percentage that nears 300%, some 156% clear of St Kevin's in third. So that looks like a game advantage. In fourth place, West Brunswick, they're 5-5. Kew in fifth, Old Geelong in sixth, Fitzroy in seventh, Williamstown in eighth, Beaumaris in ninth, all separated by just 2 points outside of a game outside of the finals playing positions, Jace and Maddie. So a close run thing once you get outside the top three.
And a totally different dynamic even inside the top three this year with Caulfield being the team that's cleared out. We know St Kevin's and Old Scotch have been the two powerhouse teams for such a long time in the women's competition. St Kevin's and Old Scotch will meet in round 14. It'll be our KTV doubleheader that day, and that could be to determine who gets the double chance and who ends up going into an elimination final, that first semi in the finals out of St Kevin's and Old Scotch. So a fascinating competition currently going on at the top end of Premier Women's. Let's talk Premier B, Matty.
Premier B, so Old Melburnians with a big win, the biggest win of the weekend, 96 points over Melbourne University, 15-13, 103 to 117. Old Brighton, too good for St Bede's Mentone, 5-8-38 to 3-1-19. Westbourne Seniors against Old Zaverians. Westbourne kept the Zabs goalless, 6-7-43 to 3 behinds. Old Yarra, 7-11-53, defeated Marcelin 5-3-33, and it was Port Melbourne Chargers who had the bye this weekend.
And it looks like a pretty stable top four at this part of the season. Old Brighton in first, 9 wins and 1 loss. They're on 36 points, a game clear of the Old Melburnians 8-3. They're a game clear of the Port Melbourne Chargers at 7-3. Old Melburnians having not had the bye yet this season, so they've played 11. Everyone else, bar the Muggers, have played 10. Westbourne rounds out the top 4, 6-4. The Old Zavs down in 5th on 4 wins, 5 losses and a draw. Also for St Bede's Mentone Tigers in 6th. Marcelin in 7th with 3 wins and 7 losses. The Old Yarra Cobras in 8th. 2 wins, 8 losses. The Muggers yet to open their account in 2025 on the bottom of the Premier B women's ladder.
Which brings us to Sherrin's favourite segment, Ton Watch.
Live sting, everyone turns around.
Scares everyone in the office. Let's talk about Ton Watch round 11. We had 3 double-figure hauls in round 11. Tom Nichols from Ormond Seniors kicked 10 as the Monders just keep on rolling. Tom Callock from Old Ivanhoe Reserves, he kicked 10 as well, and 10 to Sam Haywood from Bowie's under-19s men's team. 9 goals to James Failure from Beaumaris' senior team. 9 for Bowie in the ones is a good performance. 8 for Luke Ashen in the Oakley ones. He just keeps on keeping on, does Luke. 8 to Joel Cusack from Beaumaris Reserves. 8 also to James Barry from St Mary's Legion Reserves. And 8 to Thomas Natsikas from Ormonds Reserves. Our leading women over the weekend in round 11 was 6 goals to Josephine Pope from Box Hill North in their senior team. 5 to Mia Minguez Baird from Preston Bullants. And 5 also to Ruby O'Halloran from Therry Pinola's ones. Our season leaderboard, and we are into, well, the back half of the season, but we're also into the back half of the ton. We're up past the halfway mark, and after kicking another 6 goals on the weekend, our man Rory Calvert from Old Zabs third sits on 56 goals. He just keeps on rolling on. Another 8 to Luke Ashen from Oakley. He's on 53. 6 to Blake Williams from Box Hill North. He's on 48. So the race to finish top in the entire VAFA at the moment, you would think is down to those 3, but the man sitting 4th is Jake Dillon from Richmond Central's Reserves. He only kicked 3 on the weekend. He's on 42, so he's 6 back from Blake. But we do know that when Jake goes big, he goes really big. He could make up that gap. So Rory on 56, Luke on 53, Blake on 48, Jake Dillon on 42, 1 goal back to Tom Callock from Old Ivanhoe. Hugh Beasley didn't play on the weekend or didn't kick a goal. He's on 41. Jack Taylor-Evans kicked a couple. He's on 40. And Michael Timmins from Powerhouse on 39. Our leading women, 32 goals to Indiana Harrison from Ormond Senior. She kicked 2 on the weekend. She's 2 clear of Hannah Smith on 30 goals, who kicked 3 for St Kevin's Senior Women. Rory Calvert, 56. Luke Ashen, 53. Blake Williams, 48 in the race for the ton.
Now, is it worth Jace getting Rory, Luke and Blake maybe on the phone just to give them a little kick in the pants as we go to the back end of the season? Because I think there's going to be a fair bit of work that needs to be done to get to the ton. I'd hope for about 60, 65 at this point of the year. So a couple of dozens would make me happy over the next month or so.
Would be handy to have a couple of double figures
thrown
amongst those boys at the top of the table. Tips time. And where we sit right now is, Paddy, you've got a handy 9-tip lead over Joey. You're sitting on 76. Joey's on 67. You both tipped 7 last weekend, so you're just maintaining your buffer. Matthew Donald will step up and tip on behalf of Joseph Pignatero, which means that, Paddy, because you're sitting first at the moment, you get to tip first.
Right.
Matty gets to decide whether he agrees wants to try and mix things up a little to try and cut down on the deficit. As always, we'll start with Premier B Men's Round 12 action. Geez, what a way to start. Caulfield Grammarians versus Old Geelong.
Yeah, Old Geelong, as I mentioned in the Premier B wrap, not having a great couple of weeks. And I don't think they are going to have a great time at Glen Huntly Park against the Caulfield Grammarians, who've been really strong there. So Sats's men for me.
Yeah, going to go with the hosts as well with this one on Caulfield. Should be a close encounter, but no, going with the hosts, yeah.
Critical game, particularly for Old Geelong. They are in that mix, as we talked about during the Premier B report, just hanging in there in the race for fourth spot. One of the teams they're against is Old Melburnians. They face the task of heading out to Ivanhoe this week and taking on Old Ivanhoe.
Yeah, pretty much the opposite thing for Old Melburnians. Again, as we mentioned with Nathan Brown on the pod earlier, slow starters but are really into their work now. I think Old Ivanhoe have proven to be far too strong at home, though, this year. You're going to sense a theme with my tips. I'm taking the Hoers.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game, this one. 2 top 4 teams, but it's hard to look past Old Ivanhoe at this point.
Old Trinity versus Hampton Rovers.
Yeah, Old Trinity do it again for me and keep in step with Jared Geeshan's men.
Yep, gonna have to follow suit there, Paddy.
Willie CYMS versus Fitzroy at Fearon.
Now the opposite fixture early in the season on Anzac Day was a ripping game of footy, and it took Williamstown CYMS until the final quarter to get going. I reckon Fitzroy are going to ruin a few years as we go to the back end of the season. I'm going to go with my man Con and his CYs in this contest, although just keep your eye on Fitzroy back end of the year. Great game of footy against Caulfield Grammarians. Unlucky to probably find themselves on the wrong end of things. Had they executed a little bit better in front of goal, maybe we're having a different discussion. Williamstown at home have been superb, though. So the CYs for me, Matthew Donald.
For a second there, Paddy, I thought we were going to have
This might be the opening.
I thought this was going to be it, but no, I've gone with Williamstown as well in this one.
Final game is an interesting one. Old Carey versus Old Camberwell.
So I'm going to take the Panthers at home. Matthew.
Old Carey.
Oh, come on. He's 5 for 5. I don't mind it.
Great.
You have 9 tips to make back.
Great minds and something.
Let's move on to William Buck Premier Men's Round 12. Our SEN game also live streaming, the radio coverage on vafa.com.au and the SEN app from 1:45. It is St Kevin's and Old Brighton. What a game.
Speaking about great reverse fixtures, the preceding game at Brighton Beach Oval, a pearler. St Kevin's at home, feeling good about themselves. Old Brighton, their form has been a touch wobbly these last few weeks. I'm going to take St Kevin's to really kickstart the season at home. And Matthew Donald's going to follow me in I Bet You Anything.
Yep.
There it is.
Yep. As you say, Paddy, over the last few weeks, Old Brighton have just looked a little vulnerable. Yep. They've lost one. They won one by point and nearly dropped the points again at the weekend, just getting through at the end. And St Kevin's had a really good win last week, so I just feel like Brighton are gettable. And with St Kevin's at home, I'll go with them. I thought that was going to be the one as well.
Our community TV doubleheader from 11:35 a.m. is De La Salle versus Uni Blues at Waverley Oval.
Yeah, University Blues for me. I tipped De La last week. They let me down. I can't do it again. Come on. Sorry, Nick Highland. I think it's going to be Matt Smith for me.
No, I'm going to go with Eli here. I've got to find a good gap, but I'm all for second chances. I went with Eli last week as well, thinking that this was going to be the one. They got to respond after last week, and I think they've got it in them to get it done here this weekend.
One of our VAFA live streams on vafa.com.au from 1:55, the traditional rivalry between Collegians and Old Scotch. You'd look at the ladder and you'd pick Old Scotch in a heartbeat, but as we know, Collegians have dominated Old Scotch over the last decade. Can they keep that run going with an upset, or do the Scotchies get one back?
I think I'm taking the Scotchies. I spoke to Mark Nat post-game out at Scotch College at the weekend when they beat Old Haileybury, and they're very, very aware of their recent record against the Lions, and I just get a sense about the cards that they've had the game that now kicks off their back end of the year. So I think they continue to make statements here. I reckon they beat Collegians away.
Scotch, a bit of hard team to get a read on this year. I'm going to tip Collegians for this one. So finally, we're getting some unique tips, Paddy.
There we go. Took us 8 games.
Uni Blacks versus Old Haileybury. Interesting game, this one. Both coming off disappointing performances after being on a bit of a run.
Yeah, I'll be very interested, I think, in the team sheet pre-game because I think the Bloods were a little bit short-handed, especially in the defensive half at the weekend, and it cost them. I'm going to take the Blacks at home. But I took them last week at home against the Zavs. They let me down. I think they return to form.
Not sure what happened with the Blacks last week because they were a goal down about halfway through in the third term, and it really got away from them in quite a hurry. I expect them to bounce back at home, though. Old Haileybury are a very good side. We know that, but we got to get a response from the Blacks, so I'll go with them there.
And the final game of the weekend is another of our VAFA live streams from 2:25 because this is a 2:30 start. Old Zavs versus St Bernard's at Toorak Park.
Yeah, the Old Zavarians going nicely, just staving off the Tullamarine flu as well. I think they are going to be too good for the Snow Dogs at home.
Yeah, just to be absolutely clear, am I tipping on behalf of Joey Pignataro here or not?
Yes, you are, but I'm interested in your opinion here. We know what Joey's going to tip. He'll pick St Bernard's over the field at any time.
Because if I'm doing Joey's tips for him, it's got to be the Snow Dogs, no matter the weather.
What are your thoughts?
Matthew Donald.
What does your heart say?
Matthew Donald says that the Zavs are rolling along quite nicely, as Paddy said earlier, and I'll be going with them.
And that's a note for our man Dylan out the back to be sure to put Joey Pignataro's face next to the Old Zavarians logo on a social media graphic this week.
And that might go into meltdown. That is it for us for another episode of For the Love of the Game. Looking forward to the last weekend before the double bye. What a massive weekend it's going to be. Enjoy the footy. We'll catch you again next week.